Hello, this is Teacher March. Welcome back to my channel. And this time in this math video lesson, we will be discussing about inverse proportion. And along the way, I will be showing you some techniques and sharing with you some tips on how to solve inverse proportion problems na hindi kayo malilito at mas madali ninyo magagawa yung maisusulat yung equation. Okay? So, let's begin. What do we mean by inverse proportion? Okay, so ganito yan. In this series of video lessons that I have in my channel about proportion, I will be discussing three proportion problems. We'll have direct proportion, inverse proportion, and partitive proportion. Okay? So, pag sinabing inverse proportion, kaiba siya sa direct proportion. Okay? In a way na sa direct proportion, kung napanood na ninyo yung unang video ng direct proportion, if not, I suggest panoorin ninyo para maintindihan nyo lalo. Sa direct proportion, yung dalawang quantity, if one goes up, the other also goes up. Ibig sabihin, pareho sila ng direction. So kung yung unang quantity pataas or nag-i-increase, yung second quantity nag-i-increase din. Kung sakasakaling yung first quantity would go down, the second quantity also goes down. So sabay sila ng direction. While in an inverse proportion, they go into opposite direction. Bakit? Kasi when we have an inverse proportion, there exists two quantities that are so related that how much or in any manner that they would change, if one increases or if the first quantity increases or decreases, the second quantity would go the opposite way. Ibig sabihin, if your first quantity goes up or increases, the other quantity decreases. So habang pataas yung isang quantity ninyo, yung pangalawang quantity ninyo pababa. Okay? Or if the first quantity goes down, then the second quantity goes up. So unlike a direct proportion situation, sa direct proportion sabay silang tumataas. No? Habang pataas yung isa, pataas din yung pangalawa. Or kung pababa yung isa, pababa rin yung pangalawa. While in an inverse proportion, it's different. If one goes up, the other goes down. Or if one goes down, the other goes up. So they move in opposite direction. So yun ang tatandaan natin sa inverse proportion. Now, if you would encounter a problem, if ever you would encounter a problem, the best way to determine whether it's an inverse proportion problem or not is to analyze the problem and the quantities involved. So, kailangan ninyo. So, sa naturalesa, no, in natural setting, ano bang effect ang maibubunga nung pagtaas ng first quantity sa second quantity? Or, what effect will the first quantity have on the second quantity? So, yun ang titignan ninyo. Ngayon, or mas mainam malaman ninyo kung ano yung mga common inverse proportion problem. Okay? So ano-ano ba itong mga common inverse proportion problems? We have some on our list. We have work problems. Okay? Pag sinabing work problems, lahat ng mga word problems sa math na involved ang isang trabaho. Okay? There's a certain job that needs to be done at a certain period of time or within a certain period of time and involves the number of persons that are needed or who are needed to finish the job, or ilan ang kailangan para matapos ang isang trabaho. sa ganitong period of time. Okay? So, most probably you would be encountering a worker time ratio problem. It's under work problems. Pag sinabing worker time ratio, uh, you have two quantities. The first quantity is the number of workers, yung kung ilang tao yan, kahit yan ay lalaki, babae, basta ilang tao ang magtatrabaho. At yung pangalawa, kung gaano katagal gagawin yung trabaho. Okay? The second one is the machine time ratio. Pag machine naman, yung trabahador na tao, papalitan lang natin ng machine. Okay? If you have a machine time ratio uh, problem, either of the two will be asked kung ilan yung numero ng machine or ilang gaano katagal. It's an inverse proportion. Okay? Bakit? Kasi ganito 'yon. Pag mas maraming magtatrabaho, mas iikli yung oras o yung panahon para matapos ang isang trabaho. So that's an inverse proportion problem. Second is the speed time ratio. Okay? So kanina work problems. Ngayon naman speed time ratio. Mas mabilis ang travel mo, mas maliit yung time na i-consume mo. Okay? And when we say mas mabilis, mas mataas. So, once you speed up, whenever you speed up, ang effect nun sa time, bababa. So, it's an inverse proportion problem. So, take note. So, kapag nakakita na kayo sa problem ninyo ng mga units of measures for speed at involved din yung period of time, it's an inverse proportion problem. Okay? Another one would be a consumption rate problems. Ano yung consumption rate problems? This would involve two quantities. And what are these two quantities? Yung person and the number of person and the period it would take. So, yung bilang ng tao at gaano katagal. Okay? So, consumption. Ibig sabihin, may ikukonsumo. So, any problem that would involve a consumption situation. So, there's a food supply. Halimbawa, food supply that needs to be consumed by a certain number of persons within a specific time frame. So, pag ganyan ang involved, either tinatanong kayo kung ilang tao ang kukonsumo nung supply or ang itatanong sa inyo ay yung gaano katagal tatagal. How long will the supply last for a certain number of person, halimbawa. Okay? It's a consumption rate problem and it's under inverse proportion problem. Okay? So that's those are just some of the inverse proportion, and let's try to solve um, three inverse proportion problems involving work problem, speed time ratio, and consumption rate problems. Okay, let's begin. Okay, kagaya ng pagsosolve natin ng ating direct proportion problem, okay, we need to make a table. Kailangan natin ng table to organize the data in the problem. Okay? As kung napanood niyo yung unang video, yung direct proportion problem direct proportion video, I have also this table prepared. Okay? So hindi tayo masyadong stricto sa table. Okay? So malaki ang ginhawa ng table na to kasi it will help you sort out the quantities involved, and I will show you how to use this table in coming up with your equation, okay, or your proportion equation. Let's have the first problem. Okay. 8 people can finish a landscaping job in 6 hours. How many people must work on the same job if it should be done in 4 hours? So, is this inverse proportion problem? Okay, tignan natin kung inverse proportion problem siya. Una, meron tayong 8 people. Okay, meron tayong 8 people. We have a number of persons involved that can finish a landscaping job. So dahil meron tayong clue word na job, then it should be related to work problem. Now, just to confirm, sa work problem, kailangan natin ng person to time ratio. So we have people, okay, and hours. So people and hours. So yun ang magiging label ng ating quantities. So let's write down here people or the number of persons and the number of hours. So ayun yan yung dalawang quantities natin. Now, um, let's have the first sentence. 8 people can finish a landscaping job in 6 hours. So let's just fill in our first row of our table para sa values natin. It says there, 8 people can finish a landscaping job in 6 hours. So yan ang una nating pares. We have people to hour ratio. Next, we have here how many people. So when we have how many people, that means under the people column, second row will have a variable. So huwag na natin pahirapan yung sarili natin, no? Kunin natin yung letter P for that matter. Let's have P. Any letter will do. Okay, kung paborito nyo yung N, paborito nyo yung kung ano mang letter, pwede. But for this particular example, I would suggest that you use the first letter of the word para hindi kayo malilito. So that's letter P. Anong kapartner niyan ngayon? It says there, how many people must work on the same job? So nabago ba yung trabaho? Hindi. If it should be done, pardon the typo, ha? It should be done. Hindi it should to. Okay. Let's change that first. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Sympathize the first problem. Yeah. Okay. How many people must work on the same job if it should be done in 4 hours? So, number of hours would be 4. So, tapos na yung table natin. Paano natin ngayon gagawin paano natin isusulat yung ating proportion equation? So, we could solve for the missing term. Okay. Last time, I have shown you with respect to direct proportion kung paano pino-formulate yung ating equation. This time, para hindi kayo malito, you follow the arrow. Okay? Same pa rin. Since it's an inverse proportion, ang tatandaan natin, if the first quantity goes down, the second quantity should go up. Okay? If the first quantity goes down, the second quantity goes up. Okay? Or, tignan natin dito, from 4 to 6, pataas yan, di ba? 4, 6. Pataas yung arrow natin. Dapat itong kabila, pababa. Okay? So, ganyan. So, para saan yung arrow na yan? Yung mga arrows na yan, para dun sa pag-formulate natin ng ating working equation. So, let's have now our working equation. We'll just follow the arrow na lang, ha? So, starting here, we have 8. 8 is to P equals 4 is to 6. Okay? 8 is to P equals 4 is to 6. So, ano nang gagawin natin? We solve for the missing term. How do we do that? By multiplying the extremes and multiplying the means. Okay, so let's multiply now our extremes, 8 and 6. We have 8 times 6. That should be equal to P times 4. Okay, gamit tayo ng times. Now, let's now solve for the side na puro numero. That's 8 times 6. And 8 times 6 is 48. And dahil yan ay proportion na, 48 should be equal to P times 4. Okay? Now, how do we solve for P? Since P is multiplied by 4, we can divide both by 4. So, i-divide natin both by 4. Oh, ma'am, saan po galing? Ma'am, saan po galing yung 4? Okay, tip for the day. Second tip na to kasi unang tip ito. Itong arrowheads natin. Second tip, yung variable ninyo, kapag may nakamultiply sa kanya na numero, just to isolate the variable, to solve for the variable, you need to multiply the whole equation by the multiplier, yung factor na kasama ni P or nung variable. Okay? So divide that by 4. This will cancel this out kasi 4 divided by 4 is 1. So 1 times P will be P. Okay? Ihingalo na aking pen. Yung marker ko. So P is, what is 48 now divided by 4? It will be 12. Okay? Or we'll have P is equal to 12. Anong label natin ng 12 natin? Hanapin natin yon doon sa people. So 12 people. Okay? Yun yung sagot natin for this particular problem. So 8 people can finish a job, a landscaping job in 6 hours. So how many people must work on the same job if it should be done in 4 hours? The answer is 12 people. Okay? There should be, busog natin para makita ninyo, there should be 12 people working on the job. Now, let's look back. Kung 8 tao, 6 na oras, kung kailangan nating pababain yung oras, kailangan padadamihin natin yung bilang ng tao. Okay? Dumami ba yung bilang ng tao? Yes. Okay? So that's an inverse proportion problem. Okay? Let's have another one. This time, I will show you another way of solving the problem. Okay? Let's have our second problem. Dolores traveled a certain distance at 50 kilometers per hour in 24 minutes. If she needs to cover the same distance, in just 20 minutes, how fast must she go? Okay? So Dolores, magbabiyahe siya. She covered a certain distance. So hindi naman sinabi kung gaano kahalayo yan. And since this is an inverse proportion problem, hindi na relevant yung kung gaano kalayo yung binyahe niya. Kasi dahil inverse proportion yan na problem, ang kailangan nating quantities ay yung speed at saka yung minutes, number of minutes. So let's have here the unit for speed, which is kilometers per hour, and the number of minutes. Okay, so we have a speed time ratio as suggested by the problem. Dolores traveled a certain distance at 50 kilometers per hour in 24 minutes. Okay, so that is now our first pair of quantities. We have 50 kilometers per hour in 24 minutes. Okay, if she needs to cover the same distance in just 20 minutes, so saan natin ilalagay yung 20 minutes natin na to. Okay? Dun sa number of minutes sa second row. So we'll have 20. How fast must she go? So how fast, the word fast would suggest na speed yan. Okay? So we have our unit of unit for speed, which is kilometers per hour. So second row natin, kapares ng 20 will be letter, what do you like? K na lang. Okay? As in kph. Or kung ayaw nyo ng K, then let's have another letter for that. Let's have S. Okay? For speed. Okay? So it's 50 is to 24 and S is to 20. Kaso, hindi natin gakopyahin yan ng paganon kasi it's an inverse proportion problem. Okay, so how do we do that? So let's observe our table. Tingnan natin yung table natin. Sa table natin, vertical ang tingin natin, no? Pag tinignan natin yung unit of measure, yung column natin for speed, we have 50 and S. We cannot tell whether it goes up or it goes down kasi may variable pa tayo. So ang tingin natin nandoon sa kanan, yung under minutes, which is we have 24 and 20. Okay, anong nangyari? Alin ang mas mababa? Yung 20 at saka yung 24. So yung arrow natin pataas. Okay, so kita niya, from 20, 24, yung mababa, yun ang umpisa ng arrow natin, pataas, papunta doon sa second, doon sa isang quantity, doon sa isang number na 24, pataas siya. So kung pataas ang arrowhead, ang arrow natin, doon sa minutes, dapat doon sa kph, pababa siya. Okay? So dahil ganyan yung direction ngayon, that's how we formulate our working equation. So let's do this now. Starting from 50, we have 50 is to S equals 20 is to 24. Okay, so we have 50 is to S equals 20 is to 24. Now let's have our pair of our the means and the extremes. Yung 50 and 24 extremes, and yung means natin na S and 20. Okay, we'll write it down. We'll have extremes 50 times 24 is equal to S is to, S times 20. Okay, S times 20. Then, do sa dalawa, mas mako-compute natin yung 50 times 24. And what is 50 times 24? Okay, so we have 1,200. Okay? So, anong mangyayari nun? S times 20 is also 1,200. We'll just copy this, S times 20. Now, this time, we'll solve for the variable S. Kasama niya, nakamultiply sa kanya si 20. So, yun ang ating divisor, 20. On both sides. And then we'll have, we'll cancel out 20 here. 20 divided by 20 is equal to 1, and 1 times S is S. And S is equal to what? 120 divided by 1,200 divided by 20 is 60. Okay? Or S is equal to 60. 60 what? What should be the proper label for 60? Balikan natin. Yung S natin, S is under kph column. So we have kilometers per hour. Okay? So, our problem says Dolores traveled a certain distance at 50 kilometers per hour in 24 minutes. If she needs to cover the same distance in just 20 minutes, so bumaba yung time natin. Ibig sabihin, mag-speed up dapat si Dolores. And from here, yung 50 to 60 kilometers per hour, ibig sabihin, tumaas yung kanyang speed. Okay, so we'll have 60 kilometers per hour as the answer. Now, kanina sabi ko sa inyo, I will show you another way of solving this. Okay, kung ayaw nyo yan, mayroong technique mas mabilis. Ganito naman. Okay, now, what I will show you is a technique. Mas madali para kung you just need to get the answer in a shorter time, in a shorter period, kumbaga. This is one way of doing so. Okay? So 50, 24 is 20. This is just a technique. Okay, what we'll do is to multiply 50 times 24, yung magkapares. And this is 1,200. Okay? Tignan natin. 1,200. And then multiply din natin yan. Ay, sorry. Hindi mo multiply natin. Yung 1,200, i-divide natin dito sa kapartner ni variable. Okay? So what we'll do is to divide 1,200 divided by 20. And eventually, you will come up with 60. Okay? And then you put the label. 60 kph or 60 kilometers per hour. So, yun yung technique niya. So, mas mabilis siya. So, i-multiply nyo yung magkatabi, i-divide nyo dun sa nasa baba, alin man dyan sa dalawa. If that is an inverse proportion problem. Okay? So, technique lang yan. Now, let's have a third problem. For our inverse proportion. Okay. This third problem has something to do with consumption rate. Okay? Kasi may supply tayo. 5 kavans of rice can feed 20 persons in 6 weeks. How long will it feed 24 people? Now, take note. We have here 3 quantities mentioned. We have 5 kavans of rice. Okay, 5. That's a number. Okay? 20 persons. It's another quantity. It's another number. And we have 6 weeks. Okay? Kung hindi naka-label yan ng inverse proportion problem, how would you know which quantities to consider? So, dahil dun sa first sentence natin, tatlo yung binanggit na number, 5 kabans, 20 persons, and 6 weeks, pumunta kayo dun sa second statement. Okay? Kasi, unang-una, ang importante dyan, masagot ninyo yung tanong. Eh, ano yung tanong? Ang tanong dyan ay, how long will it feed 24 people? Okay? So, ibig sabihin, dun sa problem, it suggests what or which quantities to consider to solve the problem. Okay? Ang tinatanong dyan ay, how long will it feed? Okay, how long will it feed means you need to consider the time. Okay, doon tayo. Ang unang quantity natin ay time. Okay, in filling up the table, wala namang problema dyan kung alin yung first quantity at saka second quantity. Ang importante dyan yung column. Okay, at kung alin yung magkapares in an instance. Okay, so the first quantity is time. The second quantity is base do sa second statement natin, do sa question part na, is 24 people. Okay? Ay, sorry. 24 people. So, we have the number of people. Okay? Now, balikan natin yung problem kasi kailangan natin yung unit of measure. With regards to people, wala na tayong ibang isa-substitute na unit of measure dyan kasi tao yan. So, it will remain as is. People pa rin yan. But with regards to time, let's go back to the problem. Wow, ano yung sinabi? Okay? Doon sa unang statement, 5 kabans, 20 persons, and 6 weeks. Alin ang unit of time? Ang unit of time ay weeks. So, sa time, we'll have weeks. Okay? Number of weeks. Or week. Kahit week lang. Okay lang yan. Nagle-label lang naman tayo ng column natin. Okay? Time or week. Number of weeks. Now, let's fill in now our table. We have yung 5 kabans, hindi natin napapansinin yan, hindi natin kailangan yan. Ang kailangan natin ay yung 20 persons in 6 weeks. So our first pair would be 20 persons in 6 weeks. Okay? And then the second row will be how long will it feed 24 people? How long will it feed will be time. So let's have letter T. Or if you want to, we can have W. Okay? And then, ang partner niya ay 24 people. So we have 24 people. Now, tignan natin yung quantities. Yung 6 and W, hindi natin po kayang i-compare kung tataas siya o bababa. So doon tayo sa people column, 20 and 24. So yung arrow natin mag-uumpisa doon sa mas mababa, which is 20, and pupunta yung arrow natin doon sa mas mataas. Okay? So if this goes down, dapat itong kabila, pataas yung arrow natin. Okay? Again, anong purpose ng arrow natin? Ang purpose ng arrow na yan ay para hindi kayo malito kung paano isusulat ang inyong working equation. Okay? Let's have now our working equation. We can start here, yung 20 is to 24. Okay? Doon tayo. Para ang direction natin pa ganyan. Or, kung gusto ninyo, pa ganito naman. Walang problema doon. Okay? So, let's begin here. So, W. So, W is to 6. Sundan natin yung direction ng arrow. Tapos, lipat tayo sa kabila. Equals 20 is to 24. Okay, so W is to 6 equals 20 is to 24. Now, let's multiply our extremes and our means. Okay, our extremes W and 24 will be W times 24 equals yung ating means, which are 6 and 20. So 6 times 20. So, tignan ninyo, alin ang pwedeng computein? Siyempre, yung parehong numero, which is 6 and 20. And what is 6 times 20? It's 100, 20. Okay, hindi na makita yung aking 120. And that is equal to W times 24. To solve for the variable W, we'll use the factor 24 as our divisor, yung kasama ng ating tinatanong, ating variable. Okay, so over 24. Now, we'll cancel this out. 24 divided by 24 is 1, and 1 times W is W. And what is 120 divided by 24? That is 5. Okay? Balikan natin, anong unit of measure for W? Yan ay period, yan ay unit of time. So we'll have weeks. So 5 weeks. That will be our answer for this particular problem. 5 cabans of rice can feed 20 persons in 6 weeks. How long will it feed 24 people? So kung nag-increase yung number ng tao, dapat yung period bababa. So from 6 naging 5 weeks. So that is now our answer for this problem. Okay, so I hope this video lesson would help you in solving inverse proportion problems. Okay, laging ganun lang ang technique. I-trace ninyo alin yung tumaas o alin yung bumaba. Tapos the other quantity should go the other way around. Okay? So, see you on my next video. Party proportion naman yung ating solve. So, if you like this video, please don't hesitate to give it a thumbs up. And I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to my channel para and hit the bell also, the notification bell, para you would be informed whether I have already a video that is ready for viewing. Goodbye for now. Thank you and God bless.